Dajahao. Thank you very much for inviting me here as the representative of the Poland Asia Research Center. We are not precisely a news agency, but we are a think tank. So what we do is actually giving in-depth comments and writing analysis about China and especially Chinese-Polish relations. So, in fact, we are mostly writing about Belt and Road Initiative as well, and also about 16+1, so the model of cooperation of China and Central Eastern Europe. Apart from that, from these comments and analyses, we are also sharing news on our website coming from Asia. So, of course, Xinhua is one of the sources of information, that we use, especially when it comes to events in China. How we see generally, maybe the problem about narration about Belt and Road Initiative and 16+1 in Poland, because this is what I would like to concentrate on, is that sometimes there is a media bubble, you know, and we expect too much from China, you know. So it seems that China is a Santa Claus, and with Belt and Road Initiative, the Santa Claus will come and give us money to build this, to build that, and so on. And that's sometimes one of the problems of the narration in Poland, because there is nothing worse than the expectancies that are false and cannot be fulfilled. So what is our aim, and why I'm talking about that? Because when we write our comments and when we write our analyses, we aim at showing the facts, showing that there are many asymmetries in relations with China, which is of course not bad, it's just the status quo. In many aspects we see asymmetries, political culture, the time asymmetry, you know, we think, mostly our governments think towards 5 years, towards the next elections, whereas in China you have this perspective towards 2049, so we can plan certain things longer. And we are working with Chinese institutions, very well known. We are partner of the Fudan University. There is a think tank at the Fudan University in Shanghai. I just yesterday met the chairman of the think tank, and we were talking about Belt and Road Initiative and 16+1. We are working with Shanghai Institute for International Studies, with Chinese Academy of Social Sciences, giving our analysis and cooperating. And as a think tank, our aim is to explain the Polish-Chinese relationships as good as we can. So we're not precisely, you know, giving just news, but we try to give comments and build a narration. So what we can do together, actually, I was looking at the Memorandum of Understanding when it was sent to us, just to have a look at it. What we could actually offer as a think tank, so I'm just telling it to all of you, is to do research, yes, to have a fund for long-term research. For example, about the media discourse, you know, because in Poland that's one of the most interesting questions, how China is pictured, how the image of China is changing, and who is responsible for changing the image of China. And of course, since 2013, the image of China around the world changed dramatically, because China is perceived through the lens of New Silk Road, then by OBOR, One Belt, One Road, and now by Belt and Road Initiative, which refers actually to the same plan and umbrella that some people name as geopolitical project, some people name it as a new soft power of China, and so on. So our aim is to gather all this information, all these comments from various experts from Europe as well as from China, and to try to build a good dialogue. What it means to build a good dialogue, to write a good comment, is to share different views, to share different expectancies, not to build a false image, which is sometimes happening in Poland, like China will build us airport, China will build us this, and so on. But we're looking towards the facts, and I think that the railway between Belgrade and Budapest is a very good example, because it's a project existing already since a couple of years, and it was meant to be a flagship project of 16+1, but for many years somehow the works didn't go further. So I think on Tuesday we got that very good message that the works finally started. And it's not just about giving people the news that the work started, but to show a more comprehensive mechanism, how it's sometimes difficult for China to do an investment project in Europe with different laws, with countries like Serbia not being within European Union and countries like Hungary being part of the European Union, to explain also what obstacles China finds when they want to invest in Europe. So basically that's our aim. What we could do together is probably raise a fund for doing research on the media discourse, how it influences the political decisions, and I would be open for such a cooperation in the future, and I believe that it could help to perceive Belt and Road Initiative as a challenge, not as a threat, as some people try to perceive it. Thank you so much.
感谢 Patricia。下面有请雅典派迪昂大学国际关系研究所国际问题中心主任菲利斯先生。
Thank you. I'm here. I would like to thank the organizers for the invitation and for giving us the opportunity to sign this MOU. I'm coming from Greece. Actually from Athens. Our institute, the Institute of International Relations, is one of the two main think tanks dealing with foreign affairs, and it was founded in 1989. We are covering a number of topics of international affairs, but at the same time we are covering regions, and one of them, of course, being the Asian region. In my point of view, the One Belt One Road project highlights the undergoing transformation of global affairs. And although Greece is in NATO and in the EU, is a member of the Eurozone as well, at the same time it has a multidimensional foreign policy, and it adapts to realities. And since we see from the beginning of the 21st century a shift of economic power from west to the east, and at the same time we are expecting that this shift will have political consequences as well. And since we see that the West, in many terms, I cannot get into detail, but we probably all understand that it is in a kind of a decline, then Greece, as every other state, irrespective of the fact that it is member of the European Union, NATO, and the Eurozone, has to follow a similar policy. So as far as this project is concerned, the fact that it is expected that it will benefit between 4 to 4.4 billion people around the world shows to me how important it is and how strategic it can become. I also think that this is a mutually beneficial, or it has to be a mutually beneficial project. Some circles in the West see it as a competitive attempt on behalf of China to economically at first penetrate and then politically Europe and part of the West, and of course Central Asia, etc. But irrespective of that, I think that there is great opportunity and room for synergies and for joining forces. And Greece has been and is actually an example. In what respect? First, as you probably know, Greece has been in a dire economic situation since 2010, which means for the last 8 years. There is a recession, there are austerity measures, there are great difficulties in my country, but still there is a potential. Potential coming from geography. As you know, geography is destiny, and Greece is at the crossroads of 3 continents, and we have taken advantage of that, not to a big extent, but still we are working on it. One of the things that benefits Greece and has benefited my country since 2010, 2011 is the presence of COSCO, COSCO China Shipping, after its merging, this is how it is called, in the port of Piraeus. And the fact that Greece is perceived by China as its gateway to Europe for Chinese products. This has given a great boost to Greek economy, of course taking into consideration the problems that we were and we are still facing, but it gave a boost, and it gave a boost to the Greek economy while many of our European partners were not so willing to invest in Greece. So there was a paradox and a kind of hypocrisy coming from many Europeans, because on the one hand they were saying that you should find ways to overcome the current situation. On the other, although we all know that the only way to do that is by attracting investment, they weren't very, they didn't prove very willing to make any serious investments in Greece. Some Chinese companies, namely COSCO, they proved more willing to do so. And the second thing that, in my point of view, brings Greece at the epicenter is the fact that China has acquired a big part of the port of Piraeus. At the same time, there is another port in Thessaloniki, which is in the northern part of Greece, that has been acquired by an Italian-French company. The railway in Greece was acquired by an Italian company. So what we see here is a synergy, because the Chinese need to cooperate, and actually they are going to cooperate with companies coming from Europe in materializing their objective, which is to use Greek territory in order to reach the Central European soil in an easier and in a more cost-effective way. And we also know that through the platform 16+1, but through other initiatives as well, China is also working on the modernization of infrastructure, railways, highways, etc. And this is why I think that Greece can serve as an example of how we can join forces, I mean the Europeans and the Chinese, to not necessarily compete with each other, but find common denominators and common objectives. Of course, and I will conclude with that, I think that this initiative, the Belt Road Initiative, is also a very good opportunity for cultural exchanges. It's not only an economic project, it's of course by extension a political project, but it also gives us the opportunity to multiply contacts between societies, scientists, artists, students, the youth, and not leave it only up to the business and the political elite level. We should bringing it down to societies. And One Belt, One Road has the potential to ease tensions, promote regional dialogue, bring closer different cultures, as I said before, and why not also ameliorate in a way nationalism, and we know in Europe what nationalism and populism means, what the rise of these two phenomena means. So, as we should be looking for ways to tackle collectively global challenges and global problems, I think that this project can serve its purpose and be considered as a project that will promote and bring more synergies rather than competition, although we know that competition, of course, is a big part of global affairs, and it will remain as such. Thank you very much.